Hi, so I'm Michael. I'm one of the master trainers for Unity, and obviously what we're going to be doing in this little video is I just want to be kind of going through breaking up how the delivery of the Introduction to VR workshop kind of structures, the assets that are available for you, and kind of like a flow for delivery of these workshops. I'm going to break this up into 6 videos basically covering the different activities for Unity in this actual Intro to VR project. Okay, so what we're going to do, this video is going to focus on activity 1, working with your learners. Before I go any further though, actually looking at the running of the workshop, what we need to do is just kind of go through some of the assets that are going to be made available to you for running this. So the first thing I want to do is, one of the main things you're going to get when you get the resources for running this workshop is you're going to come across some of these files here. Very quickly, just the most basic parts to start with. You're going to get 2 zip files. The first one is the Intro to VR workshop start. This is the file that you're going to be working with the learners during the workshop and building the project up as you go. So it's got the start file for the actual Unity project. You can open this up straight from Unity Hub or straight from the standalone Unity editor. At the same time, you're also going to get the Intro to VR workshop complete. This is a great thing to be able to demo to learners at the start of the course, which I'll show you in a moment, just so they can actually see where they're heading towards, so they understand the goal of what the whole project's all about. At the same time, you're going to get these 2 PDFs. One is a participant ebook and the other one is an instructor ebook. Let's start with the instructor ebook. Let's have a quick look. I really highly recommend you read these and have a look through what's actually in here. So for starters, the introduction, this is the instructor handbook. This is obviously to give you a nice little guide as to the flow of the course, some tips, some things to talk around, elements to kind of really be sort of like working with the learners on, just to kind of make it a really fulfilling workshop. So obviously, as you can see here, it breaks up this document into the 6 activities. At the same time, we've got an introduction, which is kind of going over the flow and the educational method of what these workshops do. So looking at the workshop overview and the learning action plan that we all do with your learners. At the same time, we've got the wrap-up at the end of it. So what did they learn, where they're going to go for further learning and develop their skills, and what would they like to learn further in the future. So just quickly browsing through this, don't want to spend too long, you can look through this. Preparing to teach, this really kind of shows you the method of teaching on these Unity workshops. So trusting the spiral is a big thing that we're very into with what we're doing here. So the series of activities, as you can read, broken into subtopics where we're really starting to cover certain specific pointers, skills, subject matter. Sharing your experiences, and that's yourself and with the learners. I feel it really makes a kind of us kind of mentality with our learning, which is a really good method to be approaching there. The teach interactively, so keep things to a minimum when it comes to talking, 5 to 10 minutes, and then get into an engaging project. Anything more than that, your learners are going to start losing interest in what you're doing. They start to just pitter off. So do keep your things short before you're kind of moving on to a practical part. Okay, inspiring the learners' aspirations, obviously very important, as you can understand. It's applying the skills and what you're learning into their future projects, and that's kind of really, they're starting to make that connection between things. And providing feedback, obviously, like everything, a learner wants to know how well they're doing, so they can sort of like feel inspired, and kind of, you know, those lovely feel-good endorphins, which are going to move them on and kind of keep going further. So that's a really great thing there. We've got the overview of looking into the action plan, which is a really good thing to go through with your students, get them to fill it out. You know, you could do it later on or after the session with the learners as well. So that's a really good thing. Please look at that and go through it. And obviously, it's got something quite specific, which is for explaining the headsets for this project as well. As you can see, for explaining, so when it comes into the activities, what's really, really good in here, we've got the tips in there. It's all broken up into the stages of the objective and the outcomes as well. So that's really, really good. As you can see, for activity 1, there we've got 4, and then that's breaking it down into the specifics for meeting that overall arching objective of what we're trying to achieve there with your learners. And as you can see here, we've got some nice little discussion points as well to support you with what to talk about in there. So that's broken up into the 6 stages, and as I say, also covers the learning action plan. The other side of it, like I said, is the participant ebook. This is to really guide the learners after the session. So they can come back to this if there's areas they want to know more about, maybe they've kind of missed a section, maybe there's an area they want to practice some more. This is a guide that kind of allows the learners to kind of carry on learning outside of the lesson. And this obviously goes a lot more in depth. But the good thing about this, yes, it's for the learners as an ebook. But also it will really help you, and you'll see this as I go through it in a moment, and kind of giving you discussion, deeper points where you can talk about, and maybe the structure in your own slide deck that you're going to use in there to kind of put more information. So we'll look at this a little bit more in a moment. So if there's areas you're not too comfortable with, you're not too sure about, it's a good guide for you as it is for the learners as well. So that's our two ebooks there as well, and obviously you'll have a learning action plan in that as well. So what's activity one all about? Activity one, I really recommend this is for getting the class set up. You want to get them comfortable, you want to get them excited. It gives you a chance to show the assets that they're going to be using, and also to show them where the project's going. I wouldn't be spending too long on activity one. It's kind of like an introductory area to get everyone up to a level together, so we're on a level playing field on their understanding and their knowledge. This is an intermediate course, okay, so this course you might even want to stress with them, we're not going to be spending a lot of time building really huge custom scenes, because we want to get past that and then we actually can start customizing it from the point of view of the VR side of things, so that intermediate understanding level there. Okay, so really settle people in, get them excited. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to be covering, as I said in this section, if I just jump back here into the workshop, as you can see, it's mostly covering, we've got introducing the modern history of VR, okay, so key points in history, and talking about the popularity of VR. Reviewing the key features on VR landscapes, so the different brands, what's out there, the platforms they run on, what is the differences for them, considerations for developing for those different platforms, and identifying the key advantages Unity has for that. Okay, so what we recommend for the history of VR, as you can see clearly in here, we recommend starting off at the DK1, the Oculus DK1. It's a good starting point in VR history. If you want to, if you're someone like myself, and if you might remember during the 80s, I remember kind of going and playing some of the really first original VR sort of stuff in the 80s, where you got the massive treadmills and machines and really heavy headsets. You might want to talk about that as well. If you're not too sure though about what to talk about when it comes to the history, like I said in the participants book, we've got a history guide in there as well, and I'm sure that might be a really good starting point for you if you're not 100% too sure about that. But at the same time, it's a good place to kind of settle you in, and it kind of ties it in with the participant ebook, makes it a really solid project. So that's a really cool thing there. So from there, obviously what we're talking about is how the fact it's become cheaper now as well, so it's more accessible. So you might want to talk about that, and that's how it's kind of in the current state of VR. It's bringing it into the home a lot easier and a lot cheaper to kind of make it accessible. Okay, so that's really cool there. You might want to review the key features of the landscape with VR. So for example, as I said, you can kind of go through the different products here. I think what's a really good thing about this is actually relating it back to your experiences and their experiences. That's really going to work on creating that us mentality rather than you, the lecturer, them, the participants. So kind of keep relating things back to them, like including their experiences with this when you're talking about, has anyone tried the Oculus? Has anyone tried the PS4? Has anyone got one? What's your experiences of using this stuff? So kind of keep them coming in. So explore the brands, and like I say, in the ebook here, we've got some examples here for you. From there, I'd be then kind of looking, talking about the different platforms that we've got for it. So the computer-based, the console-based, and so on, as you can see. But, what would be quite good, maybe that's where you can open up a discussion, maybe getting a little bit of a Q&A going with them, or maybe doing a bit of a poll, getting like little group activities where, okay, before I go any further, we've talked about the different brands, and we've talked about the different platforms they can run on that they're maybe targeting. What's maybe the problem, maybe some of the design considerations that we need to think for that actual platform that you're building for. So for example, mobile, we've not got any controllers, so we kind of got to think about the navigation and the movement of the headset and the mobile that maybe makes it kind of that interaction part there. Obviously different, if you've got the computer base, you've got the keyboard activity that you'd be using, or have we got controllers? So maybe it might be quite a good thing before you move on actually into solidifying what the different considerations are for these platforms. Maybe get them to do some breakout groups. That would be a really good way of getting the group relaxed, and as I said, get them comfortable, get them excited, get them talking, get them sharing their knowledge, make them feel like they are part of this workshop. That's a really good thing. From there, Another area to go into is discussing with them about the scale of VR experiences. So in this part, obviously, what we're looking into is the different considerations for designing. So, for example, in here we've talked about, we're giving you an example to talk about how assets for the scale and the size of it in 3D applications. More often than not, the size is not too big a difference. But when you get into VR, it's kind of about making the player feel comfortable, and usually things need to be kind of in consideration of size and relate to each other. So it kind of makes the player feel that they're in a good situation and things make sense. Maybe you want to talk even further than that. So you could actually, if you've kind of got some understanding of this, talk about nausea effects. So you can maybe say about how we don't want to put head bob in there because head bob makes people feel sick. If a player is going to move, we don't want to gradually increase in speed. We want to jump to the actual speed because that gradual movement of speed actually makes players feel sick as well. Things coming towards the face. When you could actually relate that now to the project by saying, in actual fact, this is something we're going to try out in this project is addressing objects coming towards us. We don't want the player to feel sick and uncomfortable, so the actual target point on the player is lower down, so we're going to experience this. So you're kind of discussing this terminology and these considerations, and you're applying it to the future saying, and we are going to cover this. And I think that's a really good thing to do because you're actually sort of indicating these technical considerations and you are going to do this. And I think that's a really good way of tying it all in. Final part for all this is obviously I'd say as well is talking about, as we've said in this workshop, is Unity. So the key advantages of Unity for VR development. So for this part you could be talking about how easy it is to enable VR in Unity because it's just literally a tick box, which is really good. And you can say you are going to experience this and you're going to try this in the workshop. And you could then talk about how Unity can port to multiple different platforms for VR. And you're going to be seeing how quick and easy it is to sort of like address these different stages and so on and so forth. So that's a really kind of good thing to do. Like I said, please don't spend too long on this. It's an introductory part, getting everyone excited, getting them comfortable, sharing their ideas, make them feel like they are part of the session as well. And I think you'll get a really lovely interactive kind of class going on that way. Like I said, you can build this out into your own slide decks as well to kind of support this. There's also a slide deck available on Docebo for it. So if you want to customize and put your own little bits and bobs and your pictures in there and other bits and bobs, then, you know, play off of the subject matter and play off of what we've actually got here in the actual participant ebook where you can sort of branch it out. But do bring your learners into the discussions as well, and I think you'll kind of get a really nice atmosphere in your classes. Okay, that's activity 1 covered. We'll be back in a moment for activity 2.